This movie's got so many shots of dirty, bare feet that you'd think Tarantino directed it. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2018 sci-fi horror thriller, A Quiet Place. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. A Quiet Place stars Emily Blunt, John Krasinski, Millicent Simmonds, and Noah Jupe, and was directed by John Krasinski. It tells the story of a family struggling to survive in a post-apocalyptic world filled with deadly creatures with incredibly strong hearing, and the only way to survive is to not make any noise. Horror movies like this are rare, and I'm not just talking about the plot, or the acting, or the production value. All of these things take this movie to another level, but A Quiet Place manages to do something that not many other genre films are capable of. It transcends its premise. And I know that might not sound too impressive, but it really is, especially for a horror movie. The basic premise of A Quiet Place is about as simple as you can get. If you make a sound, you die. And not only is it simple, but as a logline pitch, it sounds gimmicky. A horror movie without sound, or at least without much dialogue. And if that's all this movie was, it probably would have been a gimmicky novelty film. But luckily, it's more than that, and it's really an oversimplification to just reduce it to that premise. Now, that being said, we can't disregard the premise, because it's fantastic. Again, it's something that could have been gimmicky in less skilled hands, but it just works so well here. And I have to say that I think going to see A Quiet Place was my favorite horror theatrical experience. It's a tough one, because this could have been such a disappointing experience with the wrong crowd. Luckily, I live in Maine, so most of the movies I go to are almost empty. And so when I saw this the Friday after it was released, there were only 4 other people in the theater with me. And those 4 people were amazingly considerate moviegoers. They were absolutely silent and engaged throughout the whole movie. No whispering, no phone screens lighting up. They even put their popcorn aside once the movie started, so there wasn't any maddening bag rustling or chewing sounds. It was silent, and I couldn't have asked for a better first watch of this movie. The sound design for this film is impeccable, and it's still the example I always point to when people ask about good sound design and editing. And that usually takes people aback a bit, because you might think that a movie with tons of sound effects and music and plenty of dialogue would be more impressive in the sound department than one without these things. But in the case of A Quiet Place, you'd be wrong, because here, it's not the amount of sound that makes it so impressive, it's how that sound gets utilized. It's also about how the silence gets utilized. This is an incredibly tense film because of that effective sound design. The quiet of A Quiet Place is where this movie shines. Things that would normally go unnoticed in most other movies are impossibly prominent in this film. The sound of breathing, bare feet walking down a sandy trail, birds and the wind and a river in the woods, even just the natural ambience of a silent room. They're all things that would be relegated to the sonic background of almost any other movie, but here they're critical. They're all things that you're acutely aware of because of the consequences of sound in this world, but they're accentuated because of the sound editing. The smallest of sounds have you sitting on the edge of your seat, holding your breath. So when they're contrasted by the few sudden instances of very loud noises, it's scary. And not just in a jump scare kind of way. It's much more visceral than that, because of the potentially fatal implications of those sounds. And surprisingly, what's even more startling than those moments are the moments of complete silence when we're experiencing the world as Regan does. She's deaf, so even the natural background ambience drops away. It's absolutely silent, and in that silence, it becomes deafening and even more terrifying than before, because you truly have no way of knowing what's just off screen. Sound, and the lack thereof, are definitely incredibly important parts of this movie, but like I said before, this film is more than just its premise or logline. You could consider it a creature feature, and while the creatures are impressive, it's not really about them. It's much more a story about family, and about a family's ability to cope with dire circumstances. The creatures introduce a post-apocalyptic survival element to the story, but that's not all this family has to deal with. On top of the obvious external pressure, they also have to contend with internal strife and personal tragedy. So it's just as much a story about grief and regret and forgiveness as it is about survival. And that grounds this film in a way that's very rare for horror. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. There's no question whatsoever what pro number one of this movie is for me: the sound design. Like I said before, if somebody were to ask me for an example of great sound design, this is the movie that comes to mind first. Not only is it wonderful in its own right, but it so perfectly and effectively captures the tension and tone of the movie. It sounds obvious that a movie called A Quiet Place should be fairly quiet, but it's not gimmicky and works incredibly well. The use of sound, and sometimes the complete absence of sound, is incredibly fitting for the situations, and really enhances the film in ways that sound rarely can in a typical movie. Pro number two is the tension. A good chunk of this tension is thanks to the sound design I already mentioned in the first pro, but sound can't do it on its own. The way the story builds also makes for an incredibly tense ride. It's a pretty short film, and there are a number of very intense moments, but it's almost structured like a slow burn, without actually being slow. We get hints of obvious foreshadowing, which just heightens the edge-of-your-seat anxiety, and has you cringing knowing what's likely to happen. At the same time, we and the characters get bombarded with unfortunate curveballs, which keep us constantly guessing what's going to happen next. The third pro is the premise. A horror movie where you have to be silent or else you die. It sounds simple enough, and to a certain extent is simple enough. It gets to the heart of the most basic horror movie rule, but then expands upon it to tell an unsettlingly possible story of survival in a post-apocalyptic world. It's easy to be reductive about this plot, but for as simple as it seems, it covers a lot of thematic ground in a really effective way. Plus, it leaves you wanting to know what actually happened at the beginning of this apocalypse, something it looks like we might get a look at in A Quiet Place Part 2. On the con side, my only real issue with this movie has gotta be the frustrating lapses in judgment. Characters making stupid decisions is pretty much par for the course in horror movies, so it's not something I could be overly harsh about here, especially since in their day-to-day activities, these characters are really smart and resourceful. The kids make some dumb choices at times, but again, not a huge deal. The most frustrating part of it all for me has gotta be the big choices inherent to the plot that are just so dumb. Like, maybe a baby isn't the best thing to have around in a world where silence is an essential part of staying alive. Or maybe living near a waterfall, rather than on a naturally silent farm where every minute sound you make travels for miles. There are illogical things like that you could tear this movie apart for, but it's really a very minor issue in the grand scheme of things. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying A Quiet Place or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give A Quiet Place 4 out of 5 paws. As simple as it might seem, the movie's an incredibly original and tense horror film that effectively uses sound to elevate its story to greater heights than your typical creature feature. I would recommend A Quiet Place to anybody who's a fan of horror movies or thrillers. This movie's got some incredibly tense moments and an effective anxiety-inducing atmosphere. Plus, it's got some great creature design, and anybody who appreciates sound design or editing should love this one. If you liked A Quiet Place, I've obviously got to recommend Bird Box for another single-sense horror film. In that one, vision is the thing that can kill you. And even though this movie doesn't match the tension or quality of A Quiet Place, it's still a decent watch. If you like the mystery of the apocalyptic event and creatures, you should check out The Mist. It's a Stephen King movie that explores how people react in dire situations, and also has some very tense moments. If you enjoyed the survival scavenging aspect of this movie, you might like I Am Legend for another tale of almost solitary survival in a threatening post-apocalyptic world. And if you want another horror movie where silence is the key to survival, you should check out Don't Breathe. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen A Quiet Place? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what movie features your favorite example of sound design? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insider information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe or add it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.